It's time for another episode of the Cultural Hall, an Articles of News episode. And joining me from the heat, the hot, the oh so hot of Texas, it's we used to call him the Love Muss, and then I relearned what that even was. It's Russell Wild. How are you, sir?
I'm sweltering. It really is super hot now. Unreasonably hot.
The last couple of days here in the state of Utah have been. Have you ever like you have your wife, she's got the blow dryer, and
Oh yeah.
she dries her hair with the blow dryer.
Now that's a dry heat, Richie.
Yeah. No. Here's the deal. The wind has been blowing strong enough that it feels like Mother Nature turned on the hair dryer, and so you go outside and it's not hot. We haven't, I don't even think, breached 90 degrees, but it just feels like you're in an air fryer and there's hot air all around you, and it's so strong that you're like, our limb's going to fall on my head.
That sounds delightful.
Yeah,
Here it's
sure
just muggy and gross lately.
You're
But what do you do?
So for the Patreon Saints, they get to see Russ has drawn a pretty awesome picture that you get to see of a frog on a toadstool. Is that what that is?
Yeah, it's a frog on a mushroom.
When we chatted with Chow,
I'm in my daughter's bedroom, so I don't know. She's got lots of art on her wall.
She let us know that your kids were going to the Bible camp, but it's not the Mormon Bible camp, but an opportunity for her to know about other faiths and traditions. How's that going?
We don't have a vacation Bible school in our church.
We should.
So should we?
Why not?
I think we should. We could.
Yeah.
But I'm more than happy to enjoy the free volunteer labor of other faiths.
So it doesn't cost anything? It doesn't cost anything?
No, you just sign up. In years past, we've gone to 2 or 3 different churches, vacation Bible school. It's a thing. The vacation Bible school hop, and go to. You can do, like, one of them had a big party afterwards, and they had like bounce houses and hamburgers and stuff like that. And then we bought T-shirts at it because I felt like we should support them in some way. So we did that. But no, there's not really a cost. It's kind of fun. It's interesting too. Like, you can kind of get the feel for what the theme of the year is going to be, like, from pop culture. So like by January, you're like, oh, it's a superhero year. And then like you'll start seeing like signs up at, in different towns, like, oh, this one, they bought the superhero themed camp stuff. And so like they all have different themes, and like out of this world space adventure.
Super Job. I love that.
Right. Those kind of different things. So, yeah. But it's all right. It's fine. I think it would be really fun to track down the teachers of my kids and ask them about the weird stuff my kids say. Like, because I think, my 8-year-old, 9-year-old, she talked about how her sister goes to the temple to do baptisms for the dead, and just the reaction to that I think is kind of interesting. But whatever. My kids are firm enough in their faith. I do have this happens all the time in places that have vacation Bible school, I'm sure. Whatever. But when I was a missionary in Texas, at the turn of the century, there was a kid in one of the small little towns I was in. Their kids all went to vacation Bible school, and one of them got saved at it. So that was a bonus. I don't think my kids have gotten saved at them yet, but there's hope for next year.
It's funny that you say that, because I always sort of think, you hear about the way that members of the church get treated sometimes by a lot of like evangelical or some of these other folks, and what I hope never happens, but can imagine probably does, is that there may be some groups where, your kids are sitting in on a thing and they're like, the Bible, and they're like, yeah, we've got the Bible and the Book of Mormon, and then the teacher's like, yeah, these kids can't be here anymore.
Maybe, but
don't you think?
I think it could happen, but I think just in the same way as if we had day camp or young women's camp, and a friend of our faith showed up and we said, everybody look at the Book of Mormon, and the kid's like, oh, I only have a Bible. This is weird. Like, there wouldn't be the reaction of like, oh, you can't be here.
Yeah, you hope not.
I think generally most of the time people are more accepting than, ever since President Nelson said, be a peacemaker, I think everybody's listened, right?
Yeah. I love that your face told me everything I needed to know about whether or not you think that people would really be that good inherently, where you're like, yeah, no, I think people are that good. But your face was like, no, I'm sure this happens all the time. And people
I mean, like, honestly, for me as a parent, like, I just assume my kid hear it, right? Like,
yeah,
okay, like, let's have it. Like, say something crazy to my kid about how, like, they're going to go to hell because we believe in the Book of Mormon. Like, whatever, we'll talk about it in family home evening the next week.
Sure.
And
sure,
like, it's not going to be the only time they hear it in their lives, and it's going to happen at some point. And I just assume it happened when, like, I can have a family home evening listen about it the next week. You know what I mean? Like, we can talk about it and like let them understand that, like, yes, there are lots of different churches, and they're all different positive things about them, and some of them have things about them that maybe don't feel so nice about us.
Yeah,
but we don't have to feel mean about them or whatever, however you want to discuss it. But I just assume, let's do it. Like, I don't mind exposing my kids to that.
Yeah.
I'd much rather have that than like have their first college roommate be like, oh, your church is a cult.
Yeah.
What do you mean? And then have a whole semester of them like in their ear about it, and have them not have ever heard that before. So we talk about stuff.
Is that a conscious choice that you guys have made as parents, or is that something that just as virtue of not living in the, the Mormon corridor?
I mean, I don't think we're actively looking for our kids to be exposed to like negative things about our church. I mean, I have the belief if I want my kids to be able to invite their friends to church with them, and who doesn't want that? Like, you should be able, if you don't want that, like, that's kind of the aim of the church, right? I want my kids to be able to invite their friends to church. Well, I want them to be able to feel comfortable going if their friend invites them to church too. Like, I don't want, it's not a one-way. We're sorry, we're only the inviters. We don't go.
Yeah.
But like, so so the more exposure and more thing, and whether it's a conscious thing or just, I think something that it makes common sense to me. I don't know. Like, I don't know that we ever had a sit down talk with as a husband and wife and said, well, at Vacation Bible School, what if the pastor tells our 9-year-old she's damned?
Yeah.
And then I'll tell her to go the next day and ask if she can get saved, just to like clear that.
Cover bases. Sure. As I'm sitting here and thinking about it, I'm like, well, what was my upbringing like? And I, like, visiting other churches was when I would go to other mission farewells in different wards and stuff like that. But I can remember distinctly going to my first Catholic mass in high school. It's part of a choir tour. We were in Cincinnati, Ohio, and just this massive cathedral, and seeing what that was like. And it is a now very strongly held belief that every once in a while, member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, whether you're doing it in addition to your Sunday worship or in place of your Sunday worship, should enter the doors of somewhere else.
Yeah, I think it's, I don't think there's harm in it, right? Yep. If you have a testimony of the gospel of Jesus Christ, and like, I think lots of faiths do, like, you can learn and grow and experience something new, and just being in the community wherever you are, I think it's not a bad idea.
Yeah. I'm trying to think if there's anything new for me that I should share with you. Probably something. A lot of yard work, still doing a lot of house stuff.
I'm so behind on yard work. Yeah.
Is your dog all right? That's what I was going to ask you about. Your rattlesnake dog.
We've had some bad luck with the dogs lately.
But it's okay, right? I'm not bringing up a terrible story.
No. She's fine. No, well, she's not fine. She's got bit by a rattlesnake. But we took her in almost immediately. Got her to the emergency vet, and they gave her the anti-venom that is a thing, and she's doing well.
Great.
They kept her over, like, that happened on Saturday, and they kept her over the weekend. And today they apparently the venom like you don't want it to get into the bloodstream of the bite victim, whatever that it happens to be.
Sure.
And if it does, that's what the anti-venom's for. But the venom also like destroys the tissue around the bite site.
Mhm.
And apparently that's happened a lot near her foot, which is where she got bit, on the back foot.
Mhm.
And so they're like, there's a lot of dead tissue here. And so originally the plan was to like bandage it up and send her home today. But then the doctor said it just didn't look very good today. And so they prescribed something they called hydrotherapy, which is essentially just like take the wound and rinse it for 10 minutes twice a day.
Mhm.
And then like put some ointment on it and like not bandage it up, but just kind of leave it.
Mhm. Mhm.
And they said that can be kind of messy. Like we're like, you can do it at home, or we can keep boarding her. And so we opted to keep her at the boarding hospital doctor thing. So she's gonna stay there till Friday and we'll pick her up. But like she's eating, she's normal, she's happy, like, she's got a bum foot. And was mildly disappointed that it was her back foot. So she's a Brittany Spaniel. I don't know if you're familiar with the look, but on TikTok there is a Brittany Spaniel that is missing its two front legs, that essentially walks like a person. It just always runs around. Maybe she's not missing legs, I don't remember, but I was thinking like if it was a front leg, maybe we could teach her to walk like a person.
Yeah, you could get her to earn the money that the hospital stay is going to cost back on TikTok.
Yeah, that's not free.
Yeah.
So
no. Kids, we're gonna need you to get scholarships because guess what?
It was my mother-in-law said, because my daughter was with the dog when it happened. She's like, "Oh, I'm just glad it wasn't her that got bit." And I wanted to reply, "Well, we have insurance for her." But I'm glad it was the dog and not my daughter.
Yeah, for sure. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we're gonna do actual articles of news coming up in the third block. Corey K. Ward, the Pharaoh himself. It's a temple ticker, so we got to do all the news in the next block when we come back. Here in the second block, we do actual articles of news. Hit it, Peter. And away we go. It's worth noting, and we don't do this very often, that the Peter that does the You Can't Lose articles of news is Peter Breinholt, guest number 6 in the Cultural Hall. So literally, it is hitting it, Peter Breinholt. So thank you for doing that. A shout out to him.
How is Peter Breinholt these days?
He's great. Still playing. Still does all the things. Lots of family time. He's a great follow on social media, and perhaps one of the nicest guys ever. I looked up ever, and he is. Let's start here. So back episode 332 of the Cultural Hall, we talked with Kendal Levine, or Levine. I can't ever remember. She was in a auto pedestrian crash during her mission. Do you remember this story? This was down in Australia. She was an athlete from out in Stansbury Park. Just a horrible, terrible accident. She had to come home from the mission and was having a difficult time being able to recover from that auto pedestrian accident. Things like just walking, things like talking had been difficult for her. This is just an awesome follow-up to not only that conversation, but to know where she's at in her life. She has now received her college degree from Utah Valley University. So congratulations to her. If you want to hear more about that tragic accident while she was serving, you can go back and listen to episode 332 of the Cultural Hall.
That 8-year recovery is not something that I think is fun, but good for her for making it through there and getting that done.
Sure. Unreal. And it goes to show the strength of her as an individual. And you get that when you listen to the episode as well. She's just like, I won't be stopped. This was the thing that happened, but it doesn't define me. And I hope to think that I would be that kind of person should something like that happen to me, but I don't know that I would be.
I never had to, knock on wood.
Yep. This story I thought was interesting, and then I know you've got a couple that you want to do, so get ready with one of those. In Laie, it's where your wife served her mission. Have you ever been to the BYU Hawaii campus?
I actually, I don't know. I've been to the Polynesian Cultural Center. I've never been to I didn't really spend any time on campus. I actually went when my now wife was in the MTC. Me and some friends went to Hawaii.
when she was still in the
So
MTC. So you just warmed up Hawaii for her before she
yeah,
got.
we were just checking it out, make sure it was okay,
Mhm.
making sure it was all right. I'd heard things about it. I've seen the Brady Bunch episode. I just wanted to make sure it was safe.
The tiki torches of the Brady Bunch. So at the McKay Center at BYU Hawaii, there is, and if you've ever been on the campus of BYU Hawaii, you can't miss it. This gorgeous tile mural. It's massive. Absolutely.
Made in Italy.
Yeah, made in Italy, but assembled there in on the North Shore of Oahu at the BYU Hawaii campus. Well, it was patterned after a 1921 photograph of McKay, and placed there. He returned in 1958 to dedicate that complex and the music and the mosaic, and they're doing some renovations there on the campus of BYU. And well, as part of that, they're saying, hey, you know what? We're not going to be able to keep all of this mural. And the locals, rightfully so, as far as I'm concerned, are saying, wait, what? Why will the quote is that they'll keep significant parts of the mural, but I don't understand, if it was flown over in parts and pieces and assembled here, why we could not then take it apart in parts and pieces and then have it be somewhere else in the future. I don't know why, with these things that are iconic and definitive for these different things, and I'm talking lumping into that things like the Logan Temple, like the Manti Temple, like some artwork, some of those things. We have literal billions of dollars.
That's the thing that I keep thinking.
And do it.
Like, how many of these things do we have to have, right? Not like we have, like, do we have to keep, but how many stories like this do we have to have where this incredible piece of art or history, like, we're going to destroy it. And like, they make the announcement. And is that the game? Is like, let's just like test the water and see how upset people get. And like, oh, they're upset, we should save it. And that's the thing. Like, shouldn't you just preemptively know to save some of these things?
And maybe it's
I mean,
thing like people, they think that people don't care, or like that out of touch. But I feel like, take a second and go, hey, this thing, yeah, we're not going to keep most of it. Then we're done. Like, I think just having that stop second of a thought, you go, of course we have to keep this.
Yeah, in some way. And I mean, like, murals in a temple are maybe a little bit harder to protect and preserve, or what you do with them. But this is like, this isn't just in the temple. This is like in the community, and it's become sort of iconic of the campus. I think, you probably should preserve those things. I'm trying to think what Brigham Young Provo mural or item would be comparable. That would be like, hey, let's just bulldoze that.
So I think about like the very iconic, like where everyone gets their graduation photos, the BYU, and it has kind of the column and it says, enter to learn, go forth to serve, or I think that's what it says, something like that, right?
Right. Yeah, I know that.
Anyway, like
if you were going to change that sign up, or
if they were going to, widen that road or take that sign away, people would want that sign to be relocated on campus because it's iconic enough of
grandma got her graduation picture there, and granddaughter will too.
Yeah.
But I also see the point of drawing a line somewhere. And I mean, you kind of have to. And I think of, like, I grew up in Springville, and there are a couple of like unique old meeting houses there, or there was one in Cedar City too. That was, like some of these older, unique meeting houses that have unique features, whether it's stained glass or I don't know, whatever else. Like, like people want to preserve those too, but maybe the building doesn't make sense anymore, or it gets to be expensive to preserve everything, and you can't preserve everything. So there has to be a place to draw the line, and heavens knows no one's ever going to be happy about how the church spends its money. So
right. I'm angry. But to that point, I still think we should save this one.
Yeah.
as I
This one.
pick up this starfish
So,
and throw it into the water.
but
It
at the same
mattered for
point,
this one.
like it would be very easy for a university to reach out to their donors or graduates or whoever and be like, we're going to have a special fundraiser to save this mural or mosaic. And we're not sure what we're going to do with it, but we'll probably turn it into the floor of the new place.
Yeah.
And then like watch the donations come in, like give people a chance to save it. The church doesn't even have to spend money for this one. Like they could do it with donations easily through the university system.
Yeah.
It's just a natural fit.
All right. So you had a story. Hit me.
So a few, it's probably been a month or so ago, there was a video the church put out about how they're using modular building techniques to build these temples now. And it's cutting. Did you watch that video?
I not only watched that video, but I drove myself up to Helena, Montana to see the first of these modular temples in full glory and was able to check it out.
As a child, I used to spend my summers going to Canada to visit my grandparents, and we'd often stay in Helena. I stayed a night in Helena on my honeymoon.
Okay.
Helena's a great place.
It's
so what did you think of the modular temple? Did it feel different?
No.
And maybe feel isn't the right word, but like from a not spiritual feeling standpoint, like what did you think?
It look like how sometimes people feel about modular homes? No, it didn't feel that way at all. What I wanted was I wanted someone there on site to be like, here's how you can tell, and sort of point out some of those things. And no one either knew about that or knew, how to be able to indicate that on the tour. So no, it just looked like, and I shouldn't say it that way. It looked like a temple.
I'm all for the Minecrafting of the temples. That's fine. I'm 100%. Let's push a button, print those suckers out, whatever. I mean, heavens knows I'm of the belief that we're going to all go to the temple on our Apple Vision Pros in the future, but that's beside the point. One of the casualties of the increased rate of speed they're going to be able to build modular temples is they don't have cornerstones anymore.
Yeah.
And so they're not going to have a cornerstone ceremony. And so I'm feeling a little disappointed because I was mildly looking forward to that for the Austin temple, but now we're not going to have them. Which makes me think, and I haven't had a chance to look it up yet, perhaps the next time we do this, I'll compile a list of wacky things that we've stored in cornerstones, because they always, put some things in there, right? It's like a little time capsule.
Yeah, they mark it as the time, and then my wife, we were talking about that because the Helena, Montana temple, though a modular temple, has a cornerstone that had not been, put in yet. It still had the gap for the mortar
for the thing to happen. Okay.
Yeah. So she said, well, what do they put in there? And I said, they make predictions. I didn't know what to tell her. They
the most popular candy bar in the town.
And they throw it in. No, I don't. I know they do like artifacts and sometimes like things to mark like the day, like a newspaper, but people don't have newspapers anymore, and they do.
Right. I mean, I remember watching this, I want to say the Houston temple when I was on my mission, and seeing like kids out there with their trowel, helping ceremonially sealing it off. And I thought that's kind of a cool thing to like physically tie people to a building that is now essentially printed or constructed offsite and then brought in a lot of ways. So I think I'm still torn on how I feel about it, but I think it's an interesting thing that we're pushing fast forward on the production of temples button, and which is a good thing. Let's build a pile of them before we all go virtually.
The first presidency, their statement, and I want to pick up what you just said because I don't know that we'll see. The first presidency, their statement was so concise, it sort of blew my mind that announced this. Construction techniques have advanced to the point that cornerstones are no longer included in large buildings. Therefore, temple cornerstone ceremonies will no longer be a part of temple dedications. Done. That's it. No more. Not any longer, not any more verbose, not we've had a great history of it and now it's a thing. Nope. Just we're not doing it anymore.
Just like that, King Solomon rolls over in his grave.
No. no. The end of something else too worth bringing up. The Joseph Smith Papers project will be concluding the 20.
What if they find more papers, Richie?
Well, that is an excellent question that we should ask either Matthew Godfrey or Spencer McBride, those that have been here in the Cultural Hall, to tell us about those. Look those episodes back up. You just Google it and find it.
The answer is they're probably forgeries. But
I mean, but they could, like, it's a valid question. Is there the addendum in a decade if there's enough to warrant another thing? Probably. I would think
Sure.
they would do something like that. You have the daguerreotype, or that photo that, they're saying more and more likely is Joseph Smith. There's got to be some other things like that. If we're just finding that within the last 2 years, there's got to be some more documents. So yeah, it's the PS from Joseph is what they'll call that new addendum thing. But it comes out on the anniversary of the martyrdom of the prophet Joseph. So the 27th of June, here in just about a week's time. And that concludes it. It's a huge undertaking. There are people that have worked for the church for multiple decades, and that's the only thing that they have done in their tenure with the church. And it's incredible. I don't own a single volume. I keep hoping that someone who really loves the Cultural Hall will, that has a lot of money, because they're like $100 volumes a piece, and there's like the 15 histories and then the 15 manuscripts or whatever. There's different volumes and all that stuff. It's a bunch. I keep hoping that some well-to-do listener will be like, you know what, 700 episodes, that's incredible. Have the Joseph Smith Papers.
Or I could just send you a link.
Yeah. Oh, sure. Yeah, it's online too, and you don't have to pay for it.
Yeah.
There's
So
something about having it in the hand.
well, they're so large and so voluminous that you can't just hold it in one hand.
Do you think really that we're going to do, you alluded to this, do you think that we'll really move to where we're doing virtual temple ceremonies?
I really do. I really think, and whether it's you put the headset on in a temple,
Mhm.
or if you could do it in a different, like in a special room in the stake center, or
Mhm.
even in meeting house. I don't think the day will come where I will use my own headset to do it in my own house by myself. I don't think that will happen, but I could see it being a thing, that a method to make it that much more accessible.
Yeah.
And every time that the film has changed in the last 3 years, I felt like this would be so much cooler in virtual reality.
You make an interesting point about that, because you have a dedicated part of stake centers, and then what? I mean, it's just that easy. The Helena Temple, there's not a waiting room in the Helena Temple. In the parking lot it shares with the stake center, you wait to go into the temple in the stake center, and then you walk across, go in, change, and then do it. There's not like a chapel in the Helena Temple.
I mean, I think, I mean, I think it would make it, maybe it's not even in the stake center. Maybe it's becomes a tabernacle like experience, where the church could set up go into a stake center in a different part of the world that doesn't have a temple, and they just do it in the headsets and like put you in that scenario. I think it could work.
Yeah. Well,
I don't
'cause the
know
people that would
why it
push
wouldn't.
yeah, the people that would push against it, they're missing the point. It's not
I mean, maybe you couldn't wear a headset for your first time, but maybe you could. I don't know why you couldn't.
Yeah. Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
about making the covenants and making that available for the other people. And I don't know that they're like, well, I've waited all this time in heaven, and I was really hoping you would do this in person. I guess I'll settle for the covenants made in
yeah,
VR.
And those same people were saying like, I really wanted live actors
Yeah.
at the temple before, and
Right.
and so I mean, I just feel like every change that has happened in the last few years, like, have made it seem like it would be easier. There's less physical contact. There's less physical involvement. Like, I think it'd be relatively easy to do. And I mean, the language thing's probably not an issue anymore, but that could have been a thing because we're all wearing headsets. I mean, realistically, I don't know that there's a headset available this in the coming decade that's going to be light enough and comfortable enough that we'd do that, and price at a price point that makes it where that would be the thing to do. Could you do it in a cheaper, like less comfortable headset? Probably. Like, we could all wear our Meta Quest headsets and do it. Would that work? Yeah. But the $3,000 Apple Vision Pros aren't the ones that they're going to use.
No, although highly invested into Apple.
Yes,
the church is,
and that's why.
Yeah, interesting discussion. Contact theculturalhall.com if you have particular thoughts as to why or why not that something like that could work.
Or if you work for the church and you want to leak some secret plans that you've already been doing. I mean, I feel like the church is a history of looking at creative ways to bring the temples to the people. And like, we've heard stories about cruise ships and smaller temples and all of these things that, aim to facilitate getting more and more people access. And I think like perhaps they think maybe we're not there yet, but let's keep an eye on it. Like, I think that's a thing.
And to the people who automatically say no, I just would say, well, why not? And maybe there is something that we haven't considered that's like, oh no, it would have to be this for whatever reason. But
I feel like in the last 4 years of the church, and like there's not a lot of things that like I can think of that there'd be a why not.
Sure.
That like, sure, but like, wouldn't you have said that about X, Y, and Z that are now not a thing?
Sure. I'm trying to encourage interaction, Russ. theculturalhall.com. Because there may be someone that feels super passionate about some part of it. The fellowshipping part of it. You can't do that by yourself. What?
You wouldn't be by yourself. You'd be in a virtual room filled with people.
Yeah, fair point.
The socialization in a room you can't talk in.
Okay, all right.
I don't even get to sit by my wife. What do you?
The Road to Carthage. Have you heard about this?
I have not.
This is but
I've driven it.
Episode series that the church is putting out. We're right in the thick of it right now. There are 8 episodes in totality, talking about obviously Joseph Smith in the events and the aftermath of the murder of Joseph and Hiram Smith. It's done by the Joseph Smith Papers Project folks. They did also the one about Kirtland, and they did one about the First Vision, and very well done, very highly produced. A great way for you to be able to understand those days and those times before and immediately following the martyrdom. It's hosted by Spencer McBride, previous guest of the Cultural Hall, and available. Not all of the episodes have dropped. They're about 37 minutes apiece. And as we record this, only episode 5, up to episode 5, has come out. So there's still a couple more for people to be able to check out. But it's incredibly well done. And if you've ever been curious at that time, you should check it out.
I feel like getting a glimpse into that time frame, like, and what people were thinking and what it's like, because it's hard to put myself there. I can't imagine like in my mind what the church is now versus what the church was then, like aren't the same thing from for a million of different reasons. It's the whole world is different. I can't imagine what that would be like. I can't imagine what it'd be like if President Nelson got arrested and killed. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. Like I don't know, but back then it's a whole nother ballgame, and to be able to like put yourself in that place and kind of understand from the point of view of the people that were there and like the different things that they were thinking about, I think is a very fascinating experience.
Yeah, and they just do, like I say, incredible job. Episode 5 that technically was released today as we record is Mourning Joseph and Hiram. That's what that episode is called. But for instance, Knowing Brother Joseph Again, that's episode 6. It explores the history of Carthage jail, how it became a historic site, and how its meaning has changed to visitors over the time. So it's not just, here were the people and we don't know, and this is what happened, and then, speculation to this, and this is what we think about that. It's some of the stuff in context to modern day as well. If you haven't checked these out, they do not only this one I mentioned to the First Vision, they also did one about the priesthood restored back in 2021. one about the Nauvoo Temple, 8 episodes, and then one about Kirtland that was released earlier this year. So check them out.
Are we going to get Brigham Young papers next?
Yeah, I don't think so. Just because it wasn't the same. A different kind of thing. He didn't. Have "Thus saith the Lord's" as many as Joseph Smith had, and such a much longer tenure. I mean, that's a 60 volume of each thing.
Right.
And a lot of it, and probably a lot of it's like statehood, and it's a lot of stuff that you wouldn't say is foundational to the church. It's sort of additional to the church, but I don't know.
Maybe.
You had one more story. Let's do it.
The political statement that came out not too long ago, the updating the position on neutrality that the church said. Did your ward read the letter?
We did.
What did you think? Anything jump out at you? It's been a couple of weeks now.
Yeah. So I mean, the cynic in me is thought, we're really neutral unless we don't want to be. That was one of the things that I sort of got, took away
neutral about people, not neutral about issues, kind of.
Yeah, but you know what I'm saying? Like, there are some of those things that it feels like are get pretty close to not being neutral, adjacent to non-neutrality. But the other thing that I don't think that I understood when they were reading it, or maybe it was an additional document, was the encouragement not to just vote straight party.
Right. I think that was kind of I realized that the letter isn't where I'm looking at right now, but I think the letter said something about how it's, your duty is to do more than just vote for one party that you've always voted for, or that, you should research the issues, research the people, and research in any number of ways, and then make a decision. And just doing it because of a party, or just doing it because I've always voted for this party, or just voting straight ticket isn't doing your duty. You should research and do a little more.
Yeah.
I also thought their statement on the kind of, I felt like it was a response to the criticism the church has gotten about Russia and Ukraine, about how the church doesn't take sides in matters of lands and nations, and they try to stay out of that one too. Well, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, I mean, that's a whole different kind of thing.
Sure.
Like they can't weigh in on that, otherwise they very quickly will find themselves
not invited to be places.
Yeah, not invited to be places. So they, the neutrality there makes sense, even though people are like, it's an atrocity. You can't believe what Russia is doing to the Ukraine. And it is, my opinion, of course, not necessarily the church's opinion, but they can't say that if they want to be able to continue to have congregations and saints meet there. And the thing that I think is tricky / weird about that for me is, if I'm a saint in the Ukraine and there are Russian people that live and maybe have that sort of pro Russia, the motherland mentality in your congregation, that's the thing that I think is fascinating, that being able to see everyone as God's children and being able to parse out the political compared to the spiritual, or, that thing in your congregation. That's the thing that is fascinating / really struggling to me.
Yeah. I think maybe it's time I need to look up another update and see what's happening with the temple there in Kyiv, how things are doing with it over there. I'm sure it's fine. I know it's been closed, but
it's still there. It's still standing, as the song goes, after all these years. Is that what it is? I'm still standing. Is that the next line? All I know is I'm still standing.
In a while.
This is how we roll. This is how we
bring that back into the rotation for the kids.
I'm trying. Oh, you know what? We'll end this. We'll end this news, and then we'll take a break and go into the temple ticker with the Pharaoh himself. After this, tell me, where in proximity to you is Plano, Texas?
Plano is in a kind of north-ish in the Dallas Metroplex area.
Okay.
It's like 3.5, 4 hours.
There was a great article in the Church News. You can find a link, by the way, to all the stories that we've talked about in the show notes for this episode. So be sure you check that out and read for yourself some of these stories. A Mandarin speaking branch in Plano, Texas. I thought that was incredible. The Plano 5th branch in the Plano, Texas stake is a Mandarin speaking branch, and it's a sort of a feature piece about the about President Peter Wang, Judy Wang, and their family there in the Plano area, how they feel like they were led by God, what brought them there, and now the fact that they have a branch that is Mandarin speaking and are modern day pioneers. It's a great, well-written story, but cool to see even today, even in 2023, that there's still these first time things that are occurring and strengthening the saints and being able to have it in your own language and all that stuff. So,
I mean, when I read that, I was mostly encouraged that the church is still willing to create a congregation that's meets the needs of people that, for different languages for whatever reason. I think that's,
yeah.
I felt like there was a time where things were starting to shift away from that, and I'm glad that that a new branch is created. Anytime you create a new unit, I think it's kind of a big deal in this day and age, and to be able to have the numbers to justify a branch. And hopefully, I don't think you create a branch unless you think that there's the opportunity to grow it. So
yeah, huge. So way to go, Plano, Texas, Mandarin speaking saints. Get it. All right, Russ, we're going to take a break. We'll come back and do the temple ticker.